Good morning, Softball America. We are glad that you're here. I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm glad to be here with the wonderful Tara Henry. I'm Gray Robertson. This is the Good Morning America softball show. Good Morning Softball America softball show on the Softball America Podcast Network. Sorry, I didn't get much sleep this weekend. Game times were crazy, and it was very cold. Tara, how are you?
I'm great. Good morning, Greg. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Fang. I love that you're the first one to comment. Good morning. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Like, subscribe, and we'll try and get as many of your comments on here today on the show. We do have a pretty busy show this morning, but we're going to try to get to everybody.
Yes, and to Fang's point, I do have the stat broadcast up for Oklahoma Bowling Green, so we will be tracking. Probably not talking about it a lot because unless Bowling Green does something crazy. But yeah, OU playing a little Monday morning softball. Why not?
Amazing. I think everybody should be playing softball every day. I mean, maybe not every team every day, but it's great that we get to watch softball every day and that we're able to actually view it because it wasn't too long ago that you weren't actually able to see games via streaming. So,
Ooh, for more on that, please listen to Tom's rant on this week's episode of the Out of the Box podcast on the
good.
Off the Wall segment. Tara, it's important before we let everybody know what's happening here on GMSA, how they can follow all the things that Softball America is doing, the YouTube, the Twitter, the Instagram, lots going on. And it's very important that people do what? Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this on Twitter, head on over to YouTube and hit the like button and make sure that you're commenting over there as well. But head on over to the site on3.com/softball. We've got loads of new content up from the weekend. I know the stock up, stock down just went up from Brady. We had a long conversation on what happened this past weekend. And I know Gray and I are going to get into that a little bit, but loads of content up on the site and the top 25, which we'll get into. And I know that you all have comments on the top 25. So make sure you put them in the chat. And when we get to that section, we'll try our best to get you up here on the board.
Yes, and let us know where you're watching or listening from in the comment section. We would love to hear from you. Fang's gonna, you know what? Fang is gonna give us updates from the Oklahoma Bowling Green game, which I appreciate. Thank you, Fang. Apparently, Kelly Maxwell threw out the first pitch today, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Here's what's coming up. We will have two guests joining us, Tara.
Amazing.
Two of them. In about 10 minutes, Alina Garcia from UCLA, 10 minutes give or take, will be joining the show. We're going to talk about what the Bruins did at the Mary Nutter. Lot of discussion on the Mary Nutter to start the show as well. And then Allison Benning from North Florida will be joining the program. Why, Tara? Because she was raking and not letting anybody hit her in the circle. It was a pretty dominant week all the way around for the North Florida pitcher and power hitter.
I mean, perfect game and hitting an intentional walk pitch out of the yard. I don't know that anybody does either of those things in their career. To do them in the same weekend is incredible. So yeah, we'll have her on the show.
Yes, we will be also showing that clip a little bit later. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Couple messages to flash before we get to some of the key headlines. Robert, woo, good morning. Hello, Robert. Glad you're here. Jeremy. Oop, I already put Fangs up. Here's Jeremy. Roll Tide Basketball State doing well in the Diamond Sports. Thank you, Jeremy. Of course, Nick Turina.
Nicholas.
What's up, Nick? How you doing? Excited to have you.
Yeah, good afternoon over here.
And Casey tuning in from Northern Colorado. So welcome. Tara, let's start by talking about some of the mayhem at the Mary Nutter. We saw some really fun games, a lot of dramatic games, a couple games that frankly got a little bit more sideways than I think I would have expected. UCLA had a couple run rules over ranked teams in Nebraska and Arkansas, but it was really, really impressive what we saw all throughout the tournament and just the quality of competition. These preseason tournaments are so fun because we go Clearwater to Mary Nutter to Judy Garman, and they all provide some type of drama.
Absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit about this once we get into the top 25, but I think everybody was concerned this year with the Mary Nutter because Oklahoma wasn't making the trip out. And I would argue that the games were impeccable. I mean, this is the first time I haven't actually been there in person, so I think I was able to have loads of games up on the screens, but just so impressed with Duke. Duke 5-0 on the weekend. Cassidy Curd just lights out in the circle, and Burgess with that incredible catch. I don't think we have the clip on here, but
No.
the incredible catch to end that game for Duke to win that ball game. And this is a theme through a lot of these teams, and a lot of the reasons how I actually do my top 25 is when you see teams go head to head, top 25 teams, and they're able to win, and it's not always pretty, but they're able to grind it out and get that W. That's why Duke is such a scary team, because they're finding a way to win those close games. So big on Duke. The Oregon Ducks, get out of here. Melissa Lombardi with that squad, wins over Tennessee, Mizzou, San Diego State, Cal, and Utah. 10-game winning streak for the Ducks. I was so impressed with Oregon, and obviously the pitching staff, the long ball, the speed. So just a couple of comments, and I know we'll get into UCLA when we have Alina Garcia join us on the podcast as well.
Well, look, I was about to say, she did just pop on. She's in the waiting room. So I kind of lied. I said 10 minutes, blah, blah, blah. No time like the present. I think it is a beautiful opportunity to bring in UCLA Bruin, Alina Garcia. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
We're excited to chat with you. And I first have to ask you, Tara's talking about the gritty performances that we've seen this past weekend. Your team has really shown some of that grit with some of the comebacks that they've pulled off. The Tennessee game in particular really sticks out. What is it in the DNA of this team with so many new faces like yourself that is able to get you to that place?
Mm-hmm. A big part of it is just like we don't really worry about the scoreboard. We think about it like every inning is its own inning. And in the end, we're just trying to win that specific inning. And we know we're good enough like to beat anybody. So every inning we're going out there and we're like, let's go. Like, we're better than this. Like, let's go and score off of them because we know we're good enough to score runs any inning. And then another big part is just like the family that we have in our dugout. We're always together as one. Like, it's really like 9v1 because we're all together at all times. And we know when we come together, we can't be stopped.
And Alina, I got a couple questions from some fans on Twitter, and Locked by Zoe has asked, how does it feel after getting a couple of games under your belt to be a Bruin?
It's honestly like, it's still surreal to me because it's been a dream for so long. And now it's like the dreams became a reality. But it's honestly the best decision I've made in my life is to be a Bruin because the family that we have, like I can be with them 24/7 and I won't get bored. So it's fun every single day being around these girls, and it's just amazing.
And what about the slate that your team has faced to start the year? You're playing all these ranked teams. You're playing cross country every weekend. You're going to Florida, back to California. How has all that traveling and all that time on the road kind of helped bond this squad this year?
One, I think it's a good thing because now that we're in the Big Ten, we're going to have to get used to the traveling.
Right.
But like going across the country all the time. But it's bonded us a lot just because the flights, like you have to wait around in the airport all the time. And then you also like your roommate, you get really close to them. On the plane, whoever you sit next to, you get close to them too as well. So like we're together all the time and it gets you closer. It's just natural to get closer to people and have deeper conversations with them. And you get to talk softball, you get to talk life. So you just get close to them every day.
And Alina, being on the left side of that infield, brand new over there, young side on the left side. Mm-hmm. What was that like when you stepped on campus in Westwood, when you got into Easton, and you finally realized, hey, actually, I'm going to be the starting shortstop here?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't easy. Like since day one, I knew I had to compete for a spot here as a freshman. But in the end, like in my mind, I knew that I had what it took to be the starting shortstop there. And like I've worked every day fielding with my dad, with my little brother. Like me and my little brother compete all the time when we train. So like I knew I had what it took. So just being out there at practice, giving it everything I have to prove it is what I needed to do.
Has there been an upperclassman who's really kind of taken you under her wing and kind of helped you, come along since you arrived on campus?
Yeah, definitely. There's been honestly like all of them since day one, even before practice started. they would take us out to breakfast, take us out to lunch, just to get us comfortable. So I never felt like new or like a freshman because of them. But at practice, to be honest, a big part is Jordan Woolery and Seneca Kuro, because they're also in the infield with me all the time, and they've taught me and Kanai on the left side, just like we almost like shadow them, kind of like we say we're them in 3 years. Like they're just like their energy's different, and they've been here, like they're veterans here, so they know how UCLA softball works. So we just learn from them every practice.
And Aleena, I can say you are an elite defender, and you spoke about competing with your brother and going back and forth and working with your dad. What did your training look like? How did you get to be at this point in time? Was it your family? Was it your travel ball team? Like what how did it take you? What did it take for you to get to where you are now?
I've always been the type of person to want to like do more than everybody else I'm competing against. So, because I didn't want to be like them, I wanted to be better. So, like after high school practice and stuff, I would always go and I'd train with my little brother and my dad. We'd go to cages and we'd hit for like an hour, hour and a half. And then we'd always end it with defense because my little brother's an elite defender. Like, if you see me, you need to see him. Like, he's amazing. So, like, me and him always compete and say, like, just try to be better than each other all the time. So just doing that and like knowing I've taken thousands of ground balls. So like in game, there's not a ground ball I haven't taken before. And then my travel ball coaches with Marty Tyson from Corona Angels and just all the Tyson family, they've taught me so much. Like honestly, they've prepared me for college and they've gotten me mentally ready. Like they gotten me mentally tough, and just to know to not settle for mediocre and always like there's no settling, to exceed standards. And they've taught me like little details about softball and just how to get me better.
And what's it been like to play defense behind this pitching staff? Because coming into the year, we're talking about the UCLA staff like, man, this is the best in the country, and you got so many arms who do such a great job and are so different. How has that been kind of playing behind those four arms and how talented they are in the circle?
I mean, our pitching staff is like no other. Like we face them at practice, and I'm like, wow, like how do people hit off the bat? But they're so good. But like now on defense, like my only like mindset is just do anything I can to make their job easier, because I know every pitch they're giving their 100s. Now I need to give mine back to them and help them and just help my team win. Because when they're on that mound, like I have confidence at any time that they will shut anybody down.
And last one for me. This is kind of non-softball related. What is your favorite restaurant in Westwood? Have you found one yet?
Ooh.
My favorite is Hibachi Papi. Like, I've tried hibachi, like Benihana's type hibachi, but this one, they don't make it in front of you. It's like it's already made. But when I came in summer for summer program, us and the other freshmen, we would go there like at least twice every week. It's my absolute favorite.
Oh man, I wasn't there when I was
try
there.
it.
I have to go back and get some.
Oh my gosh, so good.
Bring some for me, Tara. I've got one more question, Aleena, before we let you go. Yes. As you talked about, this is UCLA's first year in the Big Ten. You're from California, but are there any road trips out east that you're really excited about this year?
During spring break, actually, we're going to play, I think it was Maryland and Howard. So that should be a fun one because it's during spring break. So like we won't have school. So I know we'll have some like downtime also, just for more like team bonding. And I'm also excited to play Howard because they have a Tyson coach at Howard. So like that'll be really fun. And I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, well, you'll be going out in DC, checking out DC. And again, love the Tysons. Huge fan of the Tyson family.
Thank you.
Artie, Dina, Donna.
All of them. Yeah, they're amazing.
All of them. But Aleena, thank you so much for joining us. That's it for me. Great. You have anything else?
I'm good. Aleena, congratulations on a great start to your collegiate career, and best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank you so much.
That is UCLA's Alina Garcia joining us. I love the promptness. She got on early, and we're like, let's go. Come on.
I tell you, that is a Bruin thing, because early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Can I get a tattoo of that right here? Just look at some of these comments. We got Big Fish 55. Aleena is an absolute assassin on the diamond. This is an email, which is cool. Aleena, beautiful spirit. Yeah, what a personality as well. Just very fun. And you're exactly right, because I have gotten to see her live in Clearwater a couple times, and got to call one of her games. And she does kind of have this effortless movement in the field, and she's on a team that is finding ways to smash opponents, but also show that grittiness. Tom and I were joking on, I guess it was Saturday, maybe Friday. I think it was Saturday. When Tennessee had a 3-0 lead on UCLA, I looked at him and I said, well, we know that a 3-0 lead against the Bruins isn't safe. And then I think about 5 minutes later, Jordan Woolery hit that home run to go up 4-3 and eventually win by that score. This is a Bruins team that's winning in different ways. And that's the kind of thing early in the season that makes them dangerous come April and May.
Yes, and that's why I started with Duke and Oregon and was going to get into UCLA. Same thing with the Bruins. There is an effortless spirit. I will use our friend Alina, beautiful spirit. Gmail word for it, but there is an effortlessness about the Bruins. They're young. They're playing with fire, but they're relaxed, and a really, really talented team that has the potential to go really, really deep in the postseason. And Alina Garcia is part of that youth and part of the next generation of Bruins that's going to help hold that standard as high as it's been for decades. And so, again, when you take a look at the Mary Nutter, to put a bow on the Mary Nutter, I think those were the teams that I was most impressed with.
Good morning to Cheyenne. The fight the Bruins are showing early has been great. Savage Bloodlines, Alina representing city of Pico Rivera. We've got Xavier, some of your questions. We'll get to that in just a minute because we're talking Tucson next. And let's see. And Lauren, this will be our transition. Hi from Arizona. I'll be in and out, but happy to see you all. Arizona at number 7. How exciting. Let's talk Tucson. We hyped it. And guess what? It was awesome. Texas, Stanford, Arizona, all competing at Hillenbrand. Texas, Arizona. I'm at the Alabama-Kentucky basketball game Saturday night, like sitting there in my seat watching on my phone. Everybody else is going nuts because Alabama's beating Kentucky. And I'm just like, Tom, look, Caden Henry just hit a 3-run homer. Arizona shutting down Stanford the way they did was really impressive. Just back and forth. I mean, what a weekend in Tucson.
It was just fun to watch every single one of those games. And like you said, Caden Henry coming up big. But how about Stanford and Stanford's offense? We talked it a little bit on the podcast a week ago, but Allie Clements really leading the way there with that W over Texas. And then Arizona, like you said, really was impressed with the Wildcats. I think I talked about the Wildcats in our preseason podcast, saying keep an eye on them.
Yep.
And I must say that is a really, really talented squad, and putting up 5 home runs over Stanford with 7 runs in the 6th inning to close out the weekend, just after a really tough loss to Texas the night before. For them to respond and put up those type of numbers tells you that's a good squad and one to keep an eye on.
So Xavier asks this question. I know it's still early, but which Stanford is the real Stanford? The one that beat Texas or the one that lost to Arizona twice? Or were these results just purely a result of matchups? One of my favorite games, Tara, is what does this game tell me about, or who does this game tell me more about, I guess is the way to phrase it. Like, does the 2 Arizona wins tell me more about Arizona or about Stanford? Does the Stanford win over Texas tell me more about Stanford or Texas? I think, in a way, it was just kind of all lost in the wash a bit this week. Like, I'm being honest. I felt like I didn't learn anything particularly new about anybody. The Stanford win against Texas was impressive. There was one inning where they lit up Tegan Cavan, and for the rest of it, it was fairly even. Arizona, I thought, looked great against Stanford, and I was really, really impressed with how the second game went, that bounce back run rule victory. Texas, we'll talk about it when we get to the top 25, I'm sure. There were a couple concerning things in that loss, but then, my gosh, they just put the smackdown on everybody else they played on the weekend and got that extras win against the Wildcats, which it's hard to win in Hillenbrand. So I don't know. Like, it was, I guess, inconclusive on the week for me.
Yeah, I think for me, it was a big statement by Stanford. I think when you beat the number 1 team in the country, it shows that you've got the chops to be there. And for me, I just have been really impressed with Stanford's offense this season. And it's something that is new and something that we haven't seen in the past. So for me, my biggest takeaway was, okay, if you show you can beat the big dogs, that means you're still in that elite group. Again, I talked about Arizona, and I think the Wildcats are going to be really, really tough this season. And then for Texas, it's a tough loss. But again, it's a loss that's early, and it's a loss to a team that is a red hot offense and is now ranked in our poll. I know that they were ranked in some other polls, Stanford Cardinal, but again, I think the next couple weeks it's all going to shake out here. And you have to remember something, folks. They're also trying different pitching matchups. You're trying different lineups. You're trying to figure out what your roster is going to look like come May. So you also have to take into account that we're still trying to shake all those kinks out. So for me, I think my biggest takeaway was Stanford getting that big win. I think it's a big win for them.
I would make the argument, if I'm really being truthfully honest, which I hope I would be truthfully honest.
You're always truthfully honest.
That's what honest means. So I don't know why I added that adjective. I would say the biggest thing I learned, and we can talk about Tallahassee in a minute as well. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing I learned is the ACC race might be the most competitive in terms of the most teams that have a shot in the entire country, because I think the SEC is going to be good, but I'm kind of pretty sure that there are maybe 4 teams who can win that league. Big Ten, it feels like it's going to be UCLA or Nebraska. Big 12, probably 3 teams. But the ACC, I can make the argument for, and stop me if I miss anybody, Florida State, Duke, Stanford, Virginia Tech. I think Virginia has shown that they can hang.
Cal is a little sneaky.
I think Cal is right there. If they can figure out the pitching a little bit, I think that offense is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 6 teams, and there's, and then I think the bottom part of that league has clearly shown that they've improved in some areas. I want to shout out Syracuse. Even though they didn't win a game in Athens, they hung tough with the Georgia Bulldogs this weekend. So I think that conference is going to be interesting to track. And coming into the year, I said Florida State, every other year theory, they're going to win the ACC. I don't know. I still think the Noles are getting to the World Series, but I'm not sure how the ACC regular season is going to go, just because it's so competitive, and schedule luck might play a huge factor into it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you. Truthfully, honestly, agree with you.
Truthfully, honestly. Yeah.
Agree with you anymore. And
You're welcome.
Thank you. The ACC is going to be a fun one, and going to be one to watch. Obviously Clemson, I talked to John Rittman in Clearwater. I know his squad is young, but they're always really well coached and can cause some problems as well. So I agree with you, Gray. I think the ACC is going to be a fun conference to track. And we haven't forgotten about Oregon in the Big Ten.
My bad. Yeah. 3 in the Big Ten. Oregon.
Okay. Maybe Cheyenne joined late because we were talking about Oregon earlier in the show. But yes, agree with you.
Yeah, I'm still mentally wrapping my head around Stanford in the ACC race. You're exactly right, Xavier. But Stanford in the ACC race, because we were doing post game yesterday and we were talking about the Hokies, and I brought up the argument I just made, and I was like, oh, by the way, also Stanford, who just beat the number 1 team and is in the ACC. We do have to keep that in mind. All right,
that's weird.
More ACC chatter. Tallahassee. I gotta say, Texas A&M probably had the best day of anybody in the sport so far this year.
This year. Wow.
Yeah, that road sweep on Saturday of Florida State. At one point, great nugget from Amanda Scarborough via text. At one point, A&M scored 16 straight runs across the 2 games against the Noles. And this is a Florida State team whose offense we're really in love with. Nicole and I on the dirt last week talked a little bit about the pitching staff and how we liked what we'd seen, but there were some concerns. And A&M kind of took advantage of some of those concerns. The Aggies looked really strong from start to finish Saturday.
Yeah, 5-0 on the weekend, including that Powell squeeze bun, which I love, Gray. That just makes my heart grow exponentially. But 60% of their runs were scored with 2 outs. I thought that was also another really interesting stat, which shows you that the Aggies are getting it done in high pressure situations. And that's tough. And we'll get into, I've got some notes about strength of schedule and teams, how they schedule early on in the season. But Texas A&M is in that list of teams that really schedule really difficult games before pre-conference and pre-conference play.
All right, I got to flash this. Cheyenne, I was late. My baby came this weekend, so I'm a little sore right now. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Cheyenne. Oh, we got to send a Softball America onesie. If you send me an email, Cheyenne, hello@softballamerica.com.
Do we have Softball America onesies?
We're going to get one for Cheyenne. We'll send one over to Taylor, too.
Okay, I was about to say, we do have a child in the midst, so. Yeah, I thought A&M showed some really good, another great example of their pitching depth, because Emily Kennedy has not been spectacular to start the year. She's been good, but she's not been, sub 2 ERA, shut down. She's given up some runs. And the other arm, Sydney Peters, Grace Sparks was incredible in that first game that A&M won in extras. They're going to be a really hard team to prepare for, because some of these younger arms have kind of been fleshed out by Trisha Ford and that staff. And now they've got a ton of options. I mean, man, conference play, it's going to be really, really difficult to get ready for the Aggies when someone has to face them at some point in the SEC.
Yeah, if that staff gets going in the manner that they showed this past weekend, again, I agree with you, Gray. It's really going to be tough to prepare for them. It's not only tough to prepare for MLA Kennedy, but if those two get going as well. Texas A&M, I've always been high on the Aggies, and I think Trisha Ford does a really nice job with her teams. When you talk about gritty, they're gritty, but they also they have this edge with them that they play with that some teams don't like. But they play hard softball and they get it done. And so if those Aggies get rolling, again, I know we're talking about a couple programs here that are just finding ways to win. Texas A&M is one of those programs.
All right, I'm going to put out the call now. It is time for the Softball America Top 25 Q&A. Woohoo. Send in your questions. Let us know what you think. We will flash them on the screen. Also, Tara, if they want to continue the conversation, the folks can go chat where?
Yeah, head on over to the Dugout, which is our message boards. I believe Brady's on there right now chatting about the top 25. You can head on over there, ask all kinds of questions. Brady and I hop on there throughout the week, too, especially when I'm at games. If I grab an interview from a coach, I'll put it up on the message board. So up-to-date information over on the message boards on 3.com/boards, and then head on over to Softball America's The Dugout. And lots of fun over there. Hopefully you guys are jumping in, because there's been some fun discussions.
All right. Quick scoreboard update. The official Fang Nine scoreboard update. Oh, hold on. Here we go. This one. Then I'll show you your Cheyenne. Bowling Green leads 3-0 after 1. We'll keep an eye on that. Cheyenne says, thank you. I love that. I'm the reason we're getting SA onesies and not Brady.
Oh
boy.
Yep. It's okay. Everybody's going to get a onesie.
We do it for all of you out there.
Yeah.
All right. So as the questions come in, and again, submit any inquiries, qualms, comments, anything about the top 25 that was just released. Tara, you mentioned on Twitter, and you mentioned earlier in the show, you wanted to have the strength of schedule discussion and how that factors into your balloting. What's your explanation behind that? How do you try and balance all that, especially this time of year when non-conference play, you get so much thrown at you in a short amount of time?
Yeah, so it's funny. I was just thinking about this as I was sitting at one of the games over here at Georgia Tech, thinking about strength of schedule, thinking about how teams schedule pre-conference tournaments. And I just was looking at this list, because there's a lot of talk about how Oklahoma hasn't played anybody. They've just played Baylor. You got Oklahoma, Florida, South Carolina, and Georgia. For me, all in this list of not playing the toughest competition, right? We don't have a RPI out yet.
Not yet. Best we've got is the Warren Nolan metrics, which kind of, I can pull that up if you're curious.
Yeah, sure, you can pull it up. So that's what I have on one kind of column. And then you've got Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, UCLA, Duke, Oregon's in that mix too, as well after this past weekend for me. So when you take a look at those two teams, it's interesting because you've got one side of the list. Those are all teams in the SEC. Texas, you could throw in. I think they're kind of in the middle, but we can look at the metrics for that. And then you look at Oklahoma State, UCLA, Texas A&M, Duke, and Oregon. There's only one SEC team on that side of the column. So for me, when you take a look at it, I think it has to do with your team. I think you have to look at your roster. Are they young? What do they need? Or do they need to be challenged? Because sometimes you need to be challenged and battle tested because you've got to explain to your squad what they need to get better at. Or they start learning how to win close ball games. I'm not really concerned. This wasn't an Oklahoma debate, although some people took it that way. That wasn't really what the debate was talking about. Just as like, it's so interesting to me how head coaches handle their strength of schedule. And at the end of the day, I think Beth Arena is really, really good at that RPI metric. They somehow always kind of figure it out. So that's my initial thoughts, Gray. And I know that you're pulling up the Warren Nolan kind of stats. What are you taking a look at?
Well, all right. So the three SEC teams you mentioned, Georgia, South Carolina, and Arkansas. Yeah.
Yeah.
So strength of schedule right now, Georgia per WarrenNolan.com, great resource, especially before the NCAA's official RPI comes out. Georgia's SOS is 102. South Carolina is 106, and Arkansas is 85.
What about Oklahoma and Florida?
Oklahoma is 168. Florida, let's find Florida.
Yeah, let's see what
20. Right, but hey, the comments said Florida hadn't played anybody, so I'd look. If only we had stats to disagree.
So there's your argument for Florida. Now look at the other side: Oklahoma State, UCLA.
Oklahoma State. Let me find them. Where are they? Why am I struggling? Second, number 2, strength of schedule. UCLA 13, and who's the third team?
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M is 15. And per Warren Nolan, if the RPI was out right now, Texas A&M would be number 1. Florida State strength of schedule is 4.
So there it is. I mean, I feel like that's a glaring, some glaring numbers back and forth. But again, this is all before you head into conference, and once you get into the SEC, it's going to be tough. So that's kind of how I look at things. And what's Texas, Gray?
Funny you ask. Texas is 35. If the RPI came out, they'd be number 7. 35 in strength of schedule. I think this number 1 debate, which social media seems to be, and not even the number 1 debate, but I think also a lot of discussion about the Florida versus UCLA of it all at 3 and 4 too. Really just kind of the ordering of the top 5. The thing that makes this difficult is how do you evaluate teams when they win big games, but also lose on a weekend? And also how much stock do you put in absolutely epic performances against teams that they should beat, but like also scoring 24 runs is hard to do. You know, beating a team 18-2 is hard to do. I mean, like, it's not easy. You know, yes, Texas should beat Colorado State, but winning by 16 runs in 5 innings is not like a easy put it in the pipe predictable thing. You know, if teams really show out, in my eyes, like, it's hard to play this sport. It's hard to win. Hitting is hard. Ask any hitter. Hitting is hard. And if you can, you know, put up a big score, put up a bunch of runs, put up a bunch of hits, kind of no matter who the opponent is, that's pretty impressive, especially when it's such a remarkable number, like in the high teens or amazingly low 20s.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I love how passionate college softball fans are about these rankings. And for me, I love the discussion. I love that our poll is first. it actually makes me really proud because I think it's really hard to be first most of the time. But I think that opens up for tons of debate and tons of discussion. And I know that other voters and other polls, they use what they see from our poll. And for me, I think that is the greatest part, is that we've got people excited about softball and are excited to talk about it week in and week out. And you don't have to always agree. I think that if we can have some civil discourse and really talk about it, that's what makes it really fun.
You're right. We don't have to agree. And to that point, I did not have Texas #1 on my ballot. If you want to know who I had, go check out the dugout. I already put it there.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Great plug.
Yes, that's what we in the
Message
business.
boards. And yes, let's see Cheyenne. She's over on the message boards.
Oh, thank you, Cheyenne. Hey, I also wanted to flash our buddy James had a question. So Florida State down to number 9 in the poll, moving from 5 to 9. This is a super chat, so
Love it.
we love a good super chat. FSU's pitching is exposed? ? Yes and no. I don't know, Tara. What's your answer here?
I think there's a lot of season left. I think the biggest question mark for Florida State has been in the circle, but I've been able to watch the Noles, and I think they're going to be just fine. And the biggest surprise for me was Annabelle Widra, and I think Widra has done a really, really nice job. I know Jazzy Frantic came in and gave up some runs, but that's part of the learning curve, especially as a rookie. And I think I think the Noles have a really dangerous offense, so as well. So if they can just figure it out and keep mistakes to a minimum, I think they're going to be a really tough squad to play. And I know that other coaches know that lineup is tough up and down. But in terms of the pitching staff, a lot better off than I would have said at the first of the season.
Yeah, I think my biggest concerns about FSU's pitching is when teams see some of their arms multiple times in conference play. I talked about Annabelle Widra a little bit on the dirt with Nicole Mendez. Her biggest weapon is location. It's not necessarily variety. There's not a ton of different pitches. She just spots them really well. And in SEC play, she did not, when she was at Auburn, she basically threw once in a weekend, if she did, because they had Maddie Pinta and Shelby Lowe, and that was kind of it. So she's never really had to kind of reinvent herself a second time against an opponent. So we'll see how that operates. And I think when you've got a full staff like this without a true quote-unquote ace, a big part of this is just pushing the right button. And sometimes if you bring a pitcher in who's been good one day, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work that day. Sometimes you just got to push the right button. And I do immensely trust Lonnie Alameda to do that, but no coach is going to bat 1,000 when it comes to pushing the right button about when to pull this pitcher, when to bring in this other pitcher, who to start this day, how that's going to work when you're trying to figure out the order of a staff. So that to me is the thing that I struggle with Florida State's pitching, but I don't necessarily think as a whole it was exposed. I just think some of the things that have to get better were shown, but there's a lot of room to grow, I think, for all those arms and for the way that they're operated by Lonnie and the entire staff.
Yes, and I think what we need to do, Gray, is actually there's a lot of data that goes behind a lot of the decisions that happen throughout these programs in the Power Four conferences. And I know we've got some synergy data up on the site for you all to take a look at, but maybe we can do a little bit more of a deep dive on what kind of coaches and pitching staffs actually look at, the amount of times you see a batter, the amount of innings or the amount of pitches that are thrown per pitcher. So we'll do a better job of that and see if our friends at Synergy Sports can help us out. I know they can, but take a look at how many innings each pitcher has thrown and how that is working throughout the country from different pitching staffs.
All right, we did get a question.
You're making a lot of faces, Greg.
Yeah, well, first off, we got this question from Cheyenne. With SEC Monday games, you'll still release rankings on Monday? Tara, the answer is yes.
Yes, always.
Yes. And then this is an interesting one. I'm a little surprised to get it, of all the questions I thought I would see today. From John, can't believe Arizona State not top 25 after beating Oregon, which, yes, that was a great victory last week. This week they got smoked by Florida, and some of the losses. Here's the thing: if you take a bad loss like Arizona State has, not necessarily a bad loss. Belmont's a solid Missouri Valley team, but the 10-1 loss to North Dakota in 6 a couple weeks ago. The kind of non-competitive nature of that game against Florida. Arizona State, to me, is not really in consideration right now. They can get there because we've clearly seen flashes. You beat Oregon. Some of their better wins are against the toughest competition. Their better performances against the tougher competition that they've seen this year. But the losses matter too. And who you threw in the losses matter too. That's why in my ballot, I gave Mississippi State got dinged real hard because they lost with Raylan Chafin in the circle against the Jacksonville State squad that I watched Alabama light up earlier in the week. So who you lose to matters as well when we put these ballots together.
Absolutely. And John, we're going to send your question over to Brady Vernon and see what Brady Vernon thinks about the Sun Devils.
Yes, of course. Of course. Okay, that's enough top 25 chatter. If you want to keep talking about it, go hit up the forums on the website. Go see what Brady's saying on the dugout. Go check out my ballot. But all this silliness is over because it's time to get serious and talk with someone who just was on fire this week. I mean, we're talking perfection. We're talking power. We're talking dominance. I see her smiling in the waiting room. We bring her in. From the University of North Florida, it is Allison Benning. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. All right, so just your weekend stats, if I may. Overall, 12 innings pitched, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 15 strikeouts, a perfect game against Siena. You hit 700 with 8 RBIs, 3 homers, 11 walks. Good gracious. I mean, have you ever had a weekend like this in your life where it just seemed to all go right?
Honestly, not that I can recall. I mean, I've had good weekends before, but this is something new for me.
And Allison, what do you think it was about this weekend that was different? Can you actually articulate what was different for you? Because those are video game type of numbers, not on just one side of the ball, on both sides.
Both.
That's like both sides of the ball.
Honestly, I'm just trying to keep my approach simple. I feel like last year, I had a good season, but I tend to overthink a lot. So I think this year I'm just trying to just play my game, do what got me to this level and, perform at a high level. And that's just what I did. So.
All right. I have a clip. I'm going to play it and then we'll ask you about it.
Okay. Oh gosh.
All right, so you're being intentionally walked unsuccessfully, clearly, by Cornell. Let the celebration go. What prompted you to, was it something that you saw? Was there a pitch earlier in that at-bat that we didn't see where you were like, oh, these are a little close? What made you go after that intentional walk pitch?
So I talked to my dad a lot about softball. He's been someone that has been very supportive and helpful throughout my softball journey. And he was telling me, hey, teams are going to intentionally walk you. Even if they're intentionally walking you, they might miss their spot. So just be ready every pitch. And, when I get walked a lot, it's hard to stay focused, but I really have to lock in, as I like to say, when I'm up to bat. So honestly, I knew what was going on, but I was just looking for a strike and something that I could hit hard. And that's what I saw out of the hand. So I was just ready for it.
And Allison, first of all, I sent that clip to Gray. And before we even had you come on the podcast, I was like, Gray, this is the greatest thing I've seen all weekend long. I loved it. But in terms of your squad in North Florida, what do you want the rest of the country to know about your squad this season?
I would say we have a team that's ready to do big things. I think last year we came up just short in the ASUN tournament. I think this year we have an even better team, and we're ready to take the ASUN by storm, and even getting to a regional is obviously our goal. So we're just ready to do big things.
I wanted to ask about your pitching coach, Amber Pfizer, who I've known for years since she played for Minnesota and played in Tuscaloosa, and I covered her, and then I got to know her as a pro, and I've gotten to know her a little bit as a coach the last few years, and now we've talked about the success that you've had at North Florida, and if you're watching, hello Amber. What's it been like working with her and really developing your game while you've been in college?
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously, I'm from Minnesota. I grew up a Gopher sports fan all my life. I watched all the amazing Gopher greats, Sarah Moulton, Sarah Groenewegen, and obviously Amber Pfizer. I remember, honestly, I was telling someone else this earlier. I remember in high school softball at my sophomore year of high school, it was 2019, when they went to the World Series, their first one ever. And I remember where I was in our high school gym warming up for a game, and all I hear is screaming from the audio. And I was like, oh my God, they made it. They did it. And it was very cool to see like them just doing such great things. And obviously she was a really big part of that. So she's a great competitor. She's obviously a very good pitcher. She made it to that high of a level and obviously plays professional. She's been someone that I can come to with if I'm struggling mentally. She's someone that I can come to a lot, and she's been great for my development in my confidence on the mound. So she's just been an amazing role model and influence for me, and has really helped me get better throughout this entire season and even last year too.
Well, we are big Amber Pfizer fans over here. But last one for me, there's a lot of young athletes that are two-way players. And I think some coaches can ask them to concentrate on one or the other. What advice would you give an athlete that is currently a pitcher and hitting? What would you say to them? Because I think it's important for them to hear from someone like you, was able to do it at the highest level. And what advice would you give them?
I would say, honestly, trust your gut. If you know you want to do it, I knew I wanted to do it from a young age, and put in work on both sides. I think if you focus on one and you only work on one, you're only going to get better on one. So I think just putting an equal, maybe not equal, but pretty much similar time to both, working hard on both your hitting and your pitching, that's going to be the ticket for you so that you can get to a high level and just, trust yourself and do it, be passionate about it, and work hard. That's really all I have to say about it.
Well, look, all that hard work, it looked pretty good this past weekend. Let me tell you, again, just one more time for the people.
Yes.
12 innings pitched, one hit. One hit. Do you think about that one hit? Or are you like, dadgummit, why did that one hit happen?
It was the very first hitter that I faced. So it was like great. I gave up one hit. It was still the very first hitter, but then hey, it only got better from that point. So,
oh yeah, 15 strikeouts, hit 700 on the weekend, 8 RBIs, 3 homers, 11 walks. Nobody can touch her, and nobody's pitching to her. And when they do, it's a bad idea. Ladies and gentlemen, Allison Benning from North Florida. Allison, thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I had fun.
We'll see you later. Best of luck the rest of the year.
Thanks, Allison.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Woo! 700.
Woo.
Woo! One hit, and it was the first batter.
That's awesome. He was great.
Yeah, but you know though, like the competitors are like, that one. They're thinking about that one.
Yeah, and she's like, it was the first batter. But the good thing is, she's like, hey, it only got better from there. So
That's true. Got to also use perspective.
Yeah, that's how that mind works. So fun.
Yeah, North Florida going to be a fun team to track. This week, as I was looking at the schedule, they go to Orlando. They have one game against UCF. The one that I'm really interested in is when they host Florida State on March 5th. That Allison Benning, it's going to be kind of fun to see the Noles offense go up against her and her get a crack at some of those Florida State pitchers that we just talked about.
Oh, absolutely. Again, I know you're a huge fan of Amber Pfizer, Gray, and
my girl.
Yeah, now a huge fan of Allison Benning. Again, I couldn't, when you put those numbers on the rundown, I had to read through them, I think 3 times, because that just is incredible. So hats off to Allison Benning.
All right, real quick, a Fang Nine scoreboard update before we go to three big things. Sid Sanders grand slam. Let OU fans breathe easier. It's 4-3 Sooners. Bottom of the second. I would recommend Bowling Green stop walking everyone. They've walked 6 Sooners so far. That seems like a bad recipe if you're trying to pull off an upset. And you know what the great teams do when you get a free pass? You are cashing in. And that is what the Sooners did.
Apparently it's a tight zone. So
you never know. That's not helpful either.
Yeah. It's tough on both sides.
Yeah. Well, either way. So let's go to three big things. Here's what's to come this week. We will start with the Judy Garmin, our third straight big non-conference tournament. We've had Clearwater, we've had the Nutter, now we got the Garmin, and boy, it kicks off in style this week, Tara. Thursday night, we got UCLA and LSU. Let's go. This is a huge test for the Tigers, and because they've played ranked teams, but they've all been at home. This is the first away from Baton Rouge, big-time ranked matchup. And UCLA, just another day at the office, another ranked team that you're playing, another SEC team. Can't wait to watch this.
Well, just so everybody knows, Judy Garmin is OG of OG tournaments. Judy Garmin is just incredible. It's at Cal State Fullerton. I remember when Fullerton added the second field, which allows to have 2 fields. This is before Mary Nutter, was before Clearwater. Judy Garmin was the tournament to go out to on the West Coast. But yes, huge test for LSU Tigers. I love that tournament. If you are in Southern California, I highly recommend that you go there. Sometimes they have Chick-fil-A. They've got nice little food trucks out in the area. And it's basically just right back behind the baseball field. So the baseball field and the softball field share a space, which is really cool when baseball is also playing as well. Just make sure you get there early for parking. That is my Judy Garmin.
That's your free Tara tip of the day.
Yeah. And you can get a golf cart up to the field if you need be. But again, I think huge test for LSU, and one matchup that I'm really excited about. And then Arizona UCLA, no longer that Pac-12 matchup. It's that, Big 10, Big 12 matchup.
Of course, as normal. Are you ready to smack talk Tony Mascarenas one time?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Oh, because that is, in terms of rivalries, that one goes way, way back. But that's going to be a really good one. So excited about those 2 matchups. And we got one more too.
All right, and I'll also say this as well. Chat, if you want us next week to bring on Tony Mascarenas to have a little UCLA Arizona, we've been in a group chat with Tony and a couple other folks since 2020?
Yeah.
And Tony's fiery. So I kind of want her on the pod, Tara. I'm not gonna lie. Let's go off the cuff. I want Tony on this show next week. What do you think?
Yeah, let's send her a message right now.
Yeah. Tony, join us. Fang asks a great question. I do not know the answer to this. Do you know the streaming option for the Judy Garmin tournament?
For sure, the Cal State Fullerton games are on ESPN Plus, and I'm not quite sure about the other games. I can get the answer for you. I can message someone right now about that.
Okay. I'll stall while you do that because the other big game I'm really excited to see at the Garmin is Arizona-San Diego State. San Diego State missed a great chance against Oregon this past week to kind of keep the momentum rolling after they played so well in Clearwater, and I'm concerned that the profile is not going to be there for the Aztecs to potentially be in the regional hosting conversation, but you can correct that with a nice week at the Judy Garmin. And this game against Arizona is really, really important if San Diego State wants to be in that regional hosting conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll get the answer for you guys on whether or not those games have been streamed. I know last year they weren't because I think I was the only one watching Florida, Michigan last year at the Judy Garmin.
Was that the one that Michigan inexplicably won 11-2?
Yes. And I was behind the plate watching that, covering it. But no one else could see it. So hopefully if I don't get the answer by the end of this show in the next 6 minutes or 5 minutes, then we'll put it up and make sure that we've got that available.
And many thanks again for everybody sending chat in. James, you're the man.
Yeah.
We got John. We got. In fact, I'll answer this question. Out here in California, softball gets no TV time. How can I watch more games? Is there an app to watch college softball? Yes, the ESPN app. And if you use your cable provider, SEC Network Plus is a part of that package. You don't have to pay extra. Shout out to the many Alabama fans I had to inform about that this weekend. ESPN Plus is a separate subscriber package, but there are going to be a lot of softball games across the country that you can watch on the ESPN app. So that is a great way to tune in. And, typically this time of year, you got some stuff on Flow Softball as well. Okay, next up on the three big things. The tussle in Wichita. We got Wichita State, Missouri, Nebraska, and Oklahoma State all hanging out in Wichita, Kansas. And a couple things stick out for me. A, Nebraska needs this. Nebraska has missed a couple chances to grab some big non-conference victories. This is a great opportunity to grab a few more. And my other thought is, oh my gosh, Missouri. I mean, dadgum. Larissa Anderson has scheduled such a hard non-conference for this team that's still trying to figure out who they are. And I'm a little concerned about the Tigers. We'll see how they perform this week, but this is a weekend where they kind of need to find the corner and start to turn it, because it's just been a rough go these last few outings in Clearwater and at the Mary Nutter.
Absolutely great. And those four that you've got highlighted, Wichita State, Missouri, Nebraska, and Oklahoma State, this is the time where you're really starting to try and build momentum as you head into conference play. So a really pivotal moment for all of those programs, because like you said, Gray, have struggled at times during the season. So a big tournament to watch in Wichita. Wichita State, Missouri, Nebraska, and Oklahoma State, turning points for every single one of those programs.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun to watch. And speaking of fun to watch, Texas Tech and Texas A&M. They played twice. Let's go.
It's like I was talking about this earlier. Jerry Glasgow is not also afraid to schedule have a difficult schedule. He did it at Louisiana. Now he's doing it at Texas Tech. Texas A&M, same thing. Also, you have to realize a lot of these teams are now getting data on the other team as well. So if you're hosting a team, you're not going to have that Rapsodo data. You're going to be able to see how much that vertical break is or horizontal break is. So a lot of this is some data collection as well. So don't ever forget that when teams host other teams, there's some data collection happening, which we're doing a little bit better, I think, on the softball side in sharing that.
I'm just pumped. I mean, this is going to be an auto on the screen, sit and watch, just soak it in. I'm going to be on the couch, not moving, watching this game Saturday night. And then hopefully Sunday, I have to see what time it is, because we will be on the air at some point for the conclusion of the Crimson Classic. But I'm excited to watch and just see how, can the Aggies keep it up? Because it's, like I said, Saturday was maybe the best day any team has had this year. Can they keep that going against NYJA? And a Texas Tech team that we have not talked about on this show, they took down Brady's Indiana Hoosiers pretty easily this weekend. And I've had some concerns about Indiana, but they really kind of lit up the Hoosiers twice, which was impressive.
And again, I know I always sing Jerry Glasgow's praises. I think he's just a really, really good coach. And I think, when you've got a collection of individuals that haven't played together yet, it's going to take some time for them to mesh and gel and play together. But not a bad start for the Red Raiders at 14-3, 6-0 this past weekend. And, maybe they'll start rolling heading into conference play.
Marinthia Bell, excuse me. Where is the Tech and A&M game? College Station or Lubbock? That is a C-Stat special. Let's go to Davis Diamond. That'll be fun. My favorite place. I could just pay rent, live in that visiting radio booth. I'd be thriving. And guess what? I could live in that visiting radio booth. No one would know I'm there because it's so huge.
Okay, I just got confirmation. Sorry, Gray, to cut you off.
No, please, go ahead. People want to hear this.
Only the Cal State Fullerton games are on ESPN+. The rest are not televised. So I would suggest you go to it if you're there.
All right, then I'm going to flash Stevie's comment. Get Vinny to stream it.
Okay, I'll talk to Vinny. I can text Vinny. I don't know if he's watching this, but I'll text him and ask Vinny if they can put up a live stream. I don't think they can. I think there's some broadcasting rights there. But
all right, so here's the workaround, because the teams aren't going to be able to put up a stream because of the TV rights. Find the Facebook account of a parent on the team. That is how you do it. Some parent is going to put it on Facebook Live. I guarantee it.
And guess what? If we find it, it's going on the message board. So we got you.
Yes, we will do some digging as well.
Wait, before we end the show, I want to give a shout out to Coastal Carolina.
Oh yeah, please. Sorry, I'll put Cheyenne's comment back up.
You can go give Cheyenne's comment first.
Okay. So, Cheyenne said, Gray, can't wait to get you to Loves. That time is coming. No schedule spoilers for me, but I have seen when that will happen, and I'm excited.
Well, I know we're going to close the show, but I just want to give a shout out to Coastal Carolina. Was able to watch them this past weekend at Georgia Tech. Nicolette Piccone in the circle, 6-0. And Delaney Keith, Georgia Hood, Maddie Jennings. Incredible offense this past weekend, and just excited to watch them in their quest in the Sun Belt. So just big shout out to Coastal Carolina. Had real fun watching them this weekend at Mewborn Field.
Sun Belt could be
wide open.
Fun little race, because let me tell you, App State. That's funny. App State has played very well against some highly ranked SEC teams. Not won the games, but they've played well. Yep. Texas State's kind of gotten off to a shakier start. South Al kind of off to a shakier start. So we could see kind of that top portion of the league kind of coming back down a little bit, and the middle bottom part kind of rising up. And you know what that means? Parity and unexpected results all weekend long in the Sun Belt.
Love it.
Yeah. All right. What's on Softball America right now, Tara, before we head out of here?
Obviously, top 25, stock up, stock down. We'll get the composite stats. Stars of the week will be up tomorrow, and everything that happened throughout the weekend. Sorry, the dog is going crazy over here.
It's okay.
But yes, head on over to site on3.com/softball. Let us know what you think. Appreciate each and every one of you. We love spending Monday mornings with you. We're going to try and keep Monday mornings. I know it's a little difficult with travel schedule, but we're going to try our best to do it.
Yeah. Outside of when I have to go to College Station, I think I'll be back for most of them. So that could be tough. Look at Tara telling the dog to stop.
Miles, we got a new puppy and a golden doodle. They're not easy. Maybe I'll put up a photo of him on the website, but yeah, he was gnawing on my hand. Sorry.
Please do. Golden doodles have my heart. As I've said, I love all doodles. It fires me up. All right, that's all we've got for Good Morning Softball America. Thank you to our guests, Alina Garcia from UCLA, Allison Benning from North Florida, two players who really represented their schools and their programs very well this morning.
Oh, what a great Monday. And thank you all for joining us. Appreciate you, each and every one of you. Fang, thanks for keeping us updated on the OU game. I was just watching Fangs.
That's right. I'll go turn it on now that we're done. But yeah, like that. Thank you, Fang. That was clutch.
Oh, that's amazing.
For my partner, Tara Henry, Fang says this time's perfect. I agree. For the great Tara Henry, I'm Gray Robertson. Thank you so much for joining us here on Good Morning Softball America. We will see you next week at noon Eastern, 11 Central on the Softball America Podcast Network.